Awesome. Cool. Hi, everyone. My name is Ali, and I'm a product designer on the Configure team. And today I'll be talking about a UX scorecard that I did for Configure and the journey that I had and some of the lessons that I learned along the way. So I'll be talking about the tasks that were involved, the scorecard itself, and why I gave the experience a C. Some of the things I learned about Kubernetes and that I felt I should share. And also, while I was interacting with information about jobs to be done, I also came across something about strategy, and it led to a conversation with my PM. I wanted to share a bit about that, and also some of the learnings that I had, how I learned about jobs to be done, just having joined GitLab, and also how I got to learn about Kubernetes. Cool. So the job to be done that I had was related to Priyanka, and it's on our direction page for Kubernetes management. And essentially, I'll read it here. It says, I have a new version. When I have a new version of my application, I want to deploy it into production, following my preferred deployment strategy so that I can reap the fruits of my work and can celebrate success. I know it sounds weird as a job to be done, and it's something that I will touch on later. But essentially, the scenario, a typical scenario would be, and the persona that would be that I was working with was Priyanka, and that's the platform engineer. And whenever and in this scenario, she is managing application and configuration deployments using Kubernetes. And essentially, she wants a way to manage these deployments, and typically they are across multiple projects. So an agent is something that brings in efficiency. The tasks that I had to do in preparation for this evaluation, firstly, I had to create a cluster, and which involved having a Google Cloud account. And today enterprises use different cloud providers. I'm not yet at the stage where I can do multi-cloud deployment, but it's something that I would love to do quite soon, so that I can walk in the customer's shoes. And the next thing that I had to do was go into GitLab, create a project, and then connect an agent, the agent that I create, to the cluster. And then thirdly, I had to deploy and scale a demo application. So typically you can use two methods. There's GitOps and there's CI/CD method. But for this evaluation, I used the GitOps method, which is something that a lot of organizations are exploring. So I wanted to try that first. So which resulted in the scorecard that we have in front. I've always wanted to make a scorecard. I was envious of my teachers whenever they would make scorecards. So I felt a little bit like that when I was making this scorecard. And essentially, I took the heuristics that we have in our handbook, and they are divided into three main areas, which is usability, desired characteristics, and onboarding. And I took each heuristic and gave it a score. And when I contrasted this with the map that I'd made in Mural, the same areas that I gave a low score were the same ones that had a negative experience on my map, which are visibility of the system status. So as you can see from the task that I had to do, I was working across multiple systems. So when I did a deployment in when I did a deployment in my project, in my repo, I was not able to see what's happening inside my cluster, which is on Google Cloud. I had to use a third-party tool. So that was one of the things that immediately stood out for me. So any mistake or anything that I had to do, I had to leverage a third-party tool in between. And then one of the other problems that I ran into, sorry about that, was the documentation. So the documentation was not up to date with what is on the UI to what is on the user interface today. And also some of the instructions were hard to follow, and they also referenced an old version of the UI. So those were the two immediate areas. And so the recommendations that I arrived at were mainly based on these three areas. So one of the recommendations was of improving the docs. The second one was providing something around visibility of the process. So when I make a change, when I connect my agent, how can I see that that's actually happening in my cluster, whether I'm using any cloud provider? And also the third recommendation was around something that I had seen in the Google Cloud Docs. So in the Google Cloud Docs, if they give you like a code snippet that you need to paste somewhere, they will actually show you the part that you can edit, and you can edit it in their docs before you paste it on your IDE or terminal. So which I thought was a cool feature that could speed up installation. So my recommendations were around those three main areas. However, I do use this scorecard as a way to know some of the shortfalls that we have in Configure. And there are some issues that are related to improving some of these. But yeah, we will be revisiting this experience soon. So what did I learn about Kubernetes? So I learned that, Kubernetes is quite complex. Being someone who studied supply chain, I use issue trees to simplify complex information. And the first time I came across Kubernetes, I knew that this is something that was complex. But after having learned a lot of things about it, I was able to distill it into this issue tree. And the three main areas that constitute Kubernetes management are orchestration, monitoring, and thirdly, security. And you can see within each one, there are also many things to consider. And what helps me with this issue tree and why I wanted to utilize it is that it also helps me as the basis to know which teams I can also collaborate with, especially on some of the things that are important for Kubernetes management. How can we make some of the jobs to be done more seamless by leveraging what we have inside GitLab. So back to the jobs to be done that I spoke about in the beginning. After speaking with my PM, we both agreed that our jobs to be done need some work. And obviously, with the vision we have for Kubernetes was still at the very beginning. One thing I realized was that the agent itself is just a small part of the whole picture. And there's still pieces that we want to research about and solutions that we want to validate for a lot of these overlapping areas. And there are many point solutions for a lot of the problems that are seemingly there about Kubernetes. But I was asking my manager, how well do we want to do Kubernetes management? Like, do we want to be the number one tool? Those were some of the things that I was probing him with. And, he said, definitely we want to be the number one tool. And then I showed him this article that I came across by Tony Alwick. And he talks about how the degree to which you perform a certain job determines, well, he makes the assumption rather that the degree to which you perform a job determines your product positioning and therefore your product strategy. And knowing that we want to do the Kubernetes management job to be done well, I assumed that, you know, we fall, I rather proposition to my manager that we fall within the dominant strategy, which is a situation where you want to win underserved and overserved customers. So people who are just at the beginning of their Kubernetes journey and people who, you know, have been using Kubernetes for years. So which is something that is hard, but then it also, you know, made us to think about, you know, instead of trying to do all these things well, how can we also leverage integrations and still get the job to be done well, but use GitLab as the converging point. So yeah, it was really interesting to see how jobs to be done can influence strategy. So in understanding jobs to be done, I want to thank Andy for recommending that I read the Job to be Done playbook. I think it's something I can't recommend enough for all of us as designers. Yeah, it really leveled me up as a designer, and yeah, just a recommendation there. And then in terms of learning Kubernetes, it's something that I struggled with. You know, when I talk to some of my friends who are developers, some of them don't even know about Kubernetes. So it's really like high order stuff. And it led me down a journey to try and tackle some of my learning difficulties. And I came across something called Bloom's taxonomy. And I'd like to recommend it for anyone who's a designer that needs to learn hard stuff really quickly. It's a great way to you know, approach hard problems. I'm still filling in the gaps, and I hope to make it more issue trees that I can share with you know, the research that I'll be doing as part of my next steps. So as part of the next steps will be we're currently conducting jobs to be done research around Kubernetes management, and yeah, that is my journey in a nutshell.